This program is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Hello and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television. It's the Friday edition of the program, and we are set to bring you factual analysis and updates from the world of business, finance, commerce, and we do not leave out the stock market. I am Christiana Amodu-Otinya. Thank you for always joining in. We kickstart from the headlines. We begin from what's happening with the SEC. Mutual funds. SEC begins full enforcement of independent custody. And now on the front of trade, bilateral trade, Indian companies invest $19 billion in Nigeria in 40 years. We'll give you more information in the business roundup segment of the program. I'll take a short breather. When we come back, we'll go straight into the stock market. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's get straight into the numbers. Now equities on the Lagos Bourse, talking about the Nigerian exchange, edge higher 0.62%, and we are seeing this close as a result of gains in telcos, tier 1 banks, and these offset the gains, the sell-off we saw in Airtel. Now the all-share index, the benchmark all-share index, settled at 51,729.87. And looking at the activity chart here, a total volume of 211.74 million shares worth 7.73 billion naira change hands in 3,462 deals on the floor of the local bourse. The equity cap settled at 28.35 trillion naira. Now let's go over now to other African bourses. Now in Johannesburg, the South African bourse opened lower 0.08%, 78,463. And in Ghana, we are seeing that the JSE is largely unchanged, staying largely flat. Now for South Africa, issues around what's happening with the utility Eskom is still in the front burner position in conversations in South Africa. There are issues around 10 hours a day power shortage, and this is happening daily. And the minister in South Africa, they are also saying the so-called stage 6 load shedding means that South Africans are currently suffering outages. The South Africa's foreign minister, Naledi Pandor, questioned the repeated breakdown of power plants in the country. Now let's go over to Wall Street in the United States, where stock futures were flat in overnight trading as investors brace for big bank earnings to commence. Now we are still seeing positive sentiment dominating in the U.S. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite hitting 11,000 mark, 0.64% higher there for the Dow. The S&P 500 0.34% higher, and the Nasdaq is up 0.64%. Now let's go over to the European Strait and see what's happening in Europe. Still positive sentiment coming into Europe. Now the earnings season is kick-starting, getting into full gear Friday, that's today, and with the market is expecting earning results from big banks like JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and Bank of America. Investors will monitor the releases, which are expected to offer more insight into the health of the economy and set the tone for the earnings season. So now the focus has moved from the CPI numbers, talking about the US CPI numbers, inflation numbers that of course came in on Thursday. So we are seeing some level of stability come back into the markets, monitoring inflation data and also what will happen with central bankers. Now let's go over to Asia Pacific region, where the markets traded mostly higher, just the Nikkei 225 now in Japan. In Tokyo, we are seeing down 1.25%. 0.05%. The Shanghai Composite in mainland China up 1.01%, and the Kospi in South Korea is up 0.89% at 2,386.09. Over now to commodities. Wondering what the prices are like today? There you have it. So the greens are dominating. All the arrows here are pointing upwards, from the international benchmark of crude oil for crude oil, that's Brent crude, to the bullion, gold, silver, palm oil, wheat, cocoa, all in positive zone. Now oil is staying bullishly bullish, as you can see, $84.27 per barrel. It's not uhuru yet though for Nigeria, but with a budget that for 2023 with the benchmark at $75 per barrel and the international market currently doing $84 per barrel, of course, that signifies some good cues there for Nigeria, and we are seeing this growth coming as a result of what's happening with China, the second biggest crude importer globally, opening its borders, saying we are ready to do business. And we're seeing gold, we're seeing the surge coming for gold, $1,906, also hitting a high there, and this is gold is on track for the first consecutive weekly gains, supported by a weaker dollar. Remember, there's an inverse relationship between the yellow metal, the bullion, and the dollar. When we have a softer dollar, we see that reflecting gold, and all of that it has its way of affecting what's happening with the market. Now let's also look at the cryptocurrency market and see what's happening with the prices, and we are seeing Bitcoin hitting $18,839, Ethereum 1,408, and for the Binance coin $288.02, as you can see there. So the market is really trading in the green, and the bulls are gyrating in the markets, looking really good for investors. But how long will this bullish run we are seeing last for the stock market? We'll continue to bring you those updates from the market on Business Daily. But that's all we have from the stock market, from the shows of the stock market today. Now let's take a look at some business stories making the rounds.
Nigeria's apex capital market regulator, Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has commenced full enforcement of a regulatory framework that mandates mutual funds managers to hold clients' investment assets under independent custody. Director General, Securities and Exchange Commission, Lamido Yuguda, said the full enforcement of the custody requirement on all mutual funds was part of efforts to enhance investors' protection and boost confidence in the market. He added that after a thorough review of the status of privately managed funds, the Commission mandated that Rule 95 should also apply to all discretionary and non-discretionary portfolios and products to ensure the protection of investors' funds in the fund management space. According to him, the Commission had also successfully carried out a comprehensive on-site inspection exercise on the 95 registered fund managers to ensure that both public and private funds registered by the Commission are being operated in line with the relevant rules and regulations. Under the rules, clients' funds for collective investment should be held in safe and secure custody or electronically administered. The Indian government says Indian companies operating in Nigeria have invested $19 billion over the past 4 decades. The Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria, Shri Balasubramanian, disclosed this in an interview in Abuja. He added that the amount comes from over 135 Indian companies operating in Nigeria, mostly based in Lagos. Trade between Nigeria and India has strengthened over the years, resulting in a good number of Indian companies establishing their presence in Nigeria. The bilateral trade volume between Nigeria and India has reached $15 billion for the financial period 2021 to 2022, representing an increase of 69.80%. The 6 largest Indian companies operating in Nigeria are Tata Africa Services, Dana Group, RT Group, Mercure Healthcare, Dufil Prima Foods, and Chi Limited.
There you have it, business stories from the world of trade and what's happening with the Securities and Exchange Commission. On the program today, we'll be focusing on issues around the new Naira notes, issues around scarcity, around rejection, acceptance, and the deadline just by the corner. I will be joined on the program by Faiz Mohammed Ali. He is a policy analyst, and John Bosco Ezinwa, a business developer. Both of them will be putting perspective to this discussion for today. What really can be done, and what does this say also to policy formulation processes and policy implementation processes in Nigeria? Promises to be really insightful. So I'm very sure you do not want to touch that remote and change the channel. Of course not. You get to hear so much more in the interview segment of the program today. I'll hold my horses here, take a short break. When we return the program, we'll continue. Please stay with us.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back, and thank you for still staying there with us on the program. If you're just joining in, this is of course Business Daily, coming to you from Trust Television, and we are live in the Federal Capital Territory. I have my guest with me in the studio, Faiz Mohammed Ali. He is a policy analyst, and also John Bosco Ezinwa, business developer. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you join us on the
Thanks.
program.
Yeah.
I want to begin with Faiz, of course. Now, issues around the new Naira notes, issues around rejection, we're seeing low acceptance, and a deadline just lurking in the corner for Nigerians. That's talking about when Nigeria will phase out the old notes. Let me know your thoughts.
I think most experts would agree that a 3-month deadline in order to redesign, produce, distribute the Naira, while also trying to ensure that all of these measures also combat cash hoarding and institute financial accessibility and make it easier to track terrorism. This is an ambitious project, to say the least, because while currency redesign is something that the country has gone over several times in the past, and while it is used in various economies in the world to address fiscal problems, the timeline that they've instituted is something that it makes it very difficult to gain the sort of outcomes that the CBN is looking for. When it comes to issues of rejection, I think the problem that the CBN has come to face right now is the simple fact that when issuing these sort of currency redesigns, there has to be an attendant educational and informational session with traders and with the general public in order to ensure that these notes are not just accepted, but that the redesign is understood on a wide basis. So what we're seeing is traders being hesitant to accept the new notes because of stories of them being counterfeited much more easily, stories of them being able to, the colors of the new note being able to seep out, and they're wondering whether these notes are going to be legal tender for a long time. And I think also considering just how widespread the scarcity of the new Naira note is, there is the underlying idea that even when the deadline has passed, the old notes are still going to be legal tender. You have the example of the 100 Naira. We had a centenary note issued several years ago. But you still see it in circulation 8 years after the old note is supposed to be going out of circulation. So I think it's just the traders being a little circumspect about the policy itself. And then I also think that there hasn't been enough information given to the public regarding it.
John Bosco, I want to hear your thoughts. I was in the market just this week, and there were a lot of comments. In our Nigerian parlance, these traders were saying, we're not going to collect that new money. We do not understand that new money. And I gave it to my customer in the market, and she actually told me, Auntie, just give me the other one, make I take. Do you understand? So, what are your thoughts? Calibrate for me what you think about what is really happening currently. And we're less than 20 days to the deadline.
Christiana, I must tell you, it's really not an interesting time for traders and even for the Nigerian economy currently, given that the CBN has failed in community engagement. The principle for community engagement is active participation, dissemination of information, collaboration, empowerment, as well as involvement of the community where you intend to cause change. Now, Nigeria as a country is a place for change, as the CBN is the environment for change. But the CBN has failed to carry along the people, given that the time is short, no proper education. Look at what you've gone through. For me, I have not even seen a new Naira note. I've seen it in people's hand. I've not touched it. It's a prize jewel currently. I've not even touched it. Now you have it, given to the trader. They refuse to receive it. I done a little bit of research. I speak to certain people who operate the POS terminals,
Yes.
and one of the ladies, she was so concerned, but she already have a way. She said that given the limitation that she heard of, because again, still speculation, are we receiving 500,000 weekly, or 100,000 weekly, or 5,000 Naira weekly? They do not know. No information really.
Yes, talking about the limit, the cash withdrawal limit.
Yes, but now she's making arrangements to speak with the high volume traders to get cash from them to do her business, not even the bank. Now you see, Nigerians are beginning to become creative around this, but I held the line with Faiz, my colleague. It is possible this will not happen, this will not hold. The limit will be extended.
Yes.
And Nigerians are looking forward for the extension.
Because I was about to bring that up to the discussion. Now, at this point, do you think there must be an extension of the deadline?
I think it's the only logical way forward, really. Extending the deadline is something that would make sense not just on a fiscal level, but also to give the CBN itself time to produce the notes in a more mass fashion so they can be distributed in a wider angle. Even Apex banks all across the country are complaining about the scarcity of the note. And if the CBN is intent on ensuring that the deadline is met, all they're going to do is push us into a fiscal crisis that really has no easy way out.
I want to also hear what you have to say.
Well, the CBN has achieved some gains already, given what they set out to do. As of December, 1st of December, it's reported that about 1 trillion has been moved back into the banks, into the banking sector, back to the bank control from 2.7 trillion. 1 trillion, that's gain already. And Christiana, both of us have seen videos of notes that were abandoned. Now people can tell if they were truly rich on the money they stock, or they were just
Hoarding.
Or just holding cash that went bad on their hold.
Yes.
Not just the rich, not just the filthy rich. It's not just about the rich people. There was a video of somebody who put money in a can and kept, and the whole money went bad. Now, there has to be extension to avert crisis. Nigerian economy is still SME driven. Excuse me, still SME driven. Christina, do a little bit of research. Go to a market space. Don't speak. Just watch the traders, especially the older people. Watch them. You see how dizzy these women and men are. Because why is that? The same amount of money that could buy a whole trader load of stuff now is just a handful, and you want them to go to the bank. You want them to turn that in the bank. But kudos also to the banks. The banks have tried in their own form of community engagement to enlighten the people to bring in to turn in their old notes. A few banks is doing that, so kudos to them. But CBN has gotten its gain, but it's time for the extension. It's time to actively engage the populace.
Yes, because I was going to talk about community engagement, because as a business developer, going forward, engaging stakeholders in terms of drawing up these policies play a huge role then.
Yes.
Did you at any point come in contact with such stakeholder engagement, or maybe someone around your circle?
No, I didn't. In fact, it was a missed opportunity. I wouldn't say for me, but I think for the CBN, because it was out of the blues. Well, the reasons given is more or less security reason. For security reason, the money has to be changed. For counterfeiting and some other reasons. So yes. There was no engagement, as far as I'm concerned. As much as I know, I don't think extensive engagement was made. So there are speculations it was made for the elections so that cash should not be proliferated and things like that. Yes. No, the community engagement part was totally missed out. And up to today, I don't think there are still ongoing community engagement to get the people along. The local traders are not really in the mix.
To be fair, I think I've seen quite a few posts on social media and some reports or news reports of the Central Bank of Nigeria going around in marketplaces doing enlightenment in terms of getting more people to understand the rudiments around the new note as the deadline approaches. I want you to speak to, in terms of policy formulation, what this means going forward in terms of now sitting at the table and drawing up policies. These policies affect people. Going forward, what does it speak to policy, enacting these policies, and also the implementation process?
I think what this says really is that the implementation process, at least with regards to the CBN, leaves little to be desired. Because when we compare it to other economies, India, for example, had a 6-month deadline issued in, I think it was in 2011, for their currency redesign. What we've come to realize after the 6-month pass was that none of the gains that were allotted for were actually gained after the 6 months had passed. When you look at advanced economies like the United States, for example, the Federal Reserve has a 20-minute course where they allow stakeholders to come through and they're educated exactly on the reasons for not just the policy, but the redesign itself, and what effect it's going to have on the economy long term. But considering the way that the CBN has handled this, one has to beg the question whether or not they are considering long-term precisely what consequences are going to befall the economy, especially if they continue to insist on the deadline itself. The vast majority of the nation's currency is still old notes, and we're not just talking about old notes from 2020 or 2021. Old notes from as far back as 2015 are still in circulation. If you're going to withdraw all of that from circulation, all you're going to do is cause a scarcity, which makes inflation rise to a level unprecedented in our nation's history.
Finally, John Bosco, I want to get your closing thoughts on all we have been able to put together today.
I think the CBN needs to actively engage, also do an extension of the deadline. A few weeks will do, but actively engage, especially in the rural areas, because the rural area is cash for cash, no discussion.
True.
So the CBN needs to actively engage, and also the banks should continue. I agree with you too. The CBN, I've seen a couple of posts, but you know, we have our sentiments.
I think the vast majority of Nigerians, the ones who the cash withdrawal policies and the new policy are going to affect the most, especially in the marketplaces, don't waste their time on social media.
Sure.
Really, those posts need, that information needs to come to them personally. It needs to come to them through town hall meetings. It needs to come to them through radio addresses. It needs to come to them through the newspapers. It needs to come to them through the leaders and the officials talking to them directly. Social media just isn't going to cut it.
Thank you so much, Faiz Mohammed Ali, policy analyst, and John Bosco Ezenwa. Thank you for joining us on the program, gentlemen, to share your thoughts. And just before we depart, it is pertinent that we also share with you the new notes that we have here. Okay, I'm not sharing it out to us.
I would love to touch.
Yes, but these are the new notes. So we have the new 1,000 naira notes, the 500 naira note, redesigned note, and the 200 naira redesigned notes. So these are Nigerian currencies. These are our currency, the currency of the country that we all have to accept. So please, let's all accept this currency: 200, 500, 1,000. They are Nigerian monies. They are legal tender. These are the old notes. As we know, these will eventually phase out. So, gentlemen, I
would love to touch.
Okay,
so
you can touch.
So I can have a hold.
You can touch the new notes.
They're actually beautiful.
Okay.
I'll go seeking for them.
All right. So, thank you, gentlemen, once again for coming on the program. The CBN is doing its part. We should also try as media to also do our part. So that's the engagement we have done for you. They are legal tender. You're a trader, you're a business owner. You can accept this. You can get all the updates on our social media handle. You would not miss the whole update: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for joining in. Continue to stay safe, and bye for now.
This program is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.